Hey everybody, Ryan here at eTrailer. Today on our 2022 Jeep Wrangler 4xe, we're going to be showing you how to install the Roadmaster diode wiring kit. But before we do that, why don't we check this out and make sure it's the best option for you. Before we get too carried away kind of talking about the diode wiring and how it works and everything, I figured it'd be beneficial just to refresh yourselves and touch base on the main components that we're going to need to flat tow our Jeep down the road in the first place. There's going to be a total of 5 main parts. The first one's going to be the base plate, and that's going to provide us with a solid and reliable attachment point. That way we can hook our tow bar up to it. Tow bar is going to be the second component, and this is going to be the physical link that actually connects the front of your vehicle to the back of the motorhome. Third main component will be safety cables, and these are just there in the event of an unlikely disconnect. We're going to keep everything paired together. The fourth main part will be tow bar wiring, and this is going to transfer the lighting functions from the back of your coach to the back of your Jeep, keeping you safe and legal. You know, people around you know what's going on. And last but not least, the fifth main component will be a supplemental braking system. And what this is going to do is apply the brakes in your Jeep whenever you hit the brakes in your RV, helping to bring you to a more complete and predictable stop. This is a perfect example of how the diode wiring is going to work. So we're hooked up to our motorhome, we got the left turn signal going, and it transfers that signal back here. So obviously we'll get our right turn, our brake lights, and our tail lights as well. So all of our bases covered there. And honestly, when it comes to setting up wiring for a Jeep, in my opinion, this is 100% the best option. We do a ton of these kits here, and a lot of them on Jeeps. See a lot of Jeeps almost every week, and they just work. They flat out work. You know, they're reliable. You can't even tell anything extra is going on. You know, once they're installed, it looks completely factory, and it's super easy to hook up, which we'll show you that in just a moment. But you know, compared to some of your other options, one of them is magnetic lights. Honestly, on a Jeep, a lot of it's fiberglass and stuff, not even sure where you'd stick them really. You know, let's not kid ourselves, it's kind of a pain to do that every time, run your wires all the way up, then when you're done, take it apart and store it and everything else. So with this, not going to take up any extra space or anything along those lines. So to me, that's why I think it's probably one of your better bets to go with the setup like this. So as promised, here at the front, whenever you are ready to hook up, you're just going to have to plug in one cable, or the end of one cable, to the back of your motorhome, the other end into the front of your Jeep, and that's it. There's nothing else really special about it there to get everything to work. So about as simple as it can get. Just bring me to my next point. There's several kits available, and you want to make sure to get the right one, right? And they're all going to be a little bit different from the next. So for example, this is a really common one. This has a 7-way round to 6-way round. And a coiled cable, and you're going to use that with tow bars like the eTrailer one here that has a little rod there just to keep it up, or tow bars that don't have channels or anything on them at all. And the coiled portion keeps it up off the ground when you're going straight, and then stretches when you make those wide turns. There's one, same kit, essentially just a different connector. It's a 7 to the motorhome and a 4-way round into the vehicle side. Not as popular, honestly. If you're going through the trouble, I'd rather just have the 6-way, have a couple extra pins if you use a charge line or something like that in the future. You got it. But it is available. And then you have your straight and hybrid cables. Okay, so you can see here, this one, get it untangled, is coiled at the beginning with the 7-way, and then straight with the 6-way on the end of it, and that's for tow bars that have channels, right? So little channels on the side there, that way you can run your cable through there and utilize the channel. And so if you got a really long setup, actually like ours, pretty long setup here with our high-low adapter and everything, this one's a little bit longer, so it gives you some extra length. And then same deal as that hybrid one, just this one's completely straight here. So for tow bars with channels, you got your 7 to 6. Then there's probably the least common one. This is a 4-way flat to 4-way flat. Rarely see these, but if your motorhome has got an older motorhome or something with the 4-way on it, can use this. And then there's a bare bones type kit, okay? And that one's just gonna come with the bundle of wiring, the diodes, and some connectors to you know, connect all the wires together. And that one's available for those of you that end up going with a tow bar that's a little more premier. So like the Roadmaster Nighthawk tow bar, for example, that already comes with a cable and a 6-way connector and a bracket. So you don't need, you know, you don't need a kit that comes with all that stuff, and then you have, you know, you have 2 of them. So if you have a tow bar that includes, you know, your wiring and the connector, the bare bones type kit is the one that's going to be the best option for you. Other than that though, at the end of the day, like I said before, this is probably my top pick as far as tow bar wiring goes. It's reliable and it's going to get you on the road the fastest, you know. As far as the install is concerned, really not too bad. It's a little time consuming just having to route all your wires and everything, but hopefully during the installation, I'll show you how I did it, and hopefully it'll make it a little easier on you and give you some more confidence. But if you're interested in seeing that, feel free to hang around. We'll go ahead and pull into the garage and hook everything up together now. To begin our diode wiring installation, we're going to be here at the front of our Jeep, and obviously we have the front bumper taken off, and I'm doing that just because it gives us more room to work. But it can be done with the bumper on, but doing it same time that we're doing the base plate just kind of makes sense to do it this way. But with that said, we need to hook up our wiring connector. And so I got one end of our wire here, and if your base plate has a bracket, put the wire through it first, and this will connect to the bottom of our bumper beam once you put it on. So everything's just going to be roughly installed right now. But with that said, we'll then take our dust cover, a little boot there, slide that on over the wire as well. And then we need to peel our wires apart. So you can just carefully cut in between them. And just start to peel them back, maybe a few inches. What I like to do is bring them all back again and cut off maybe a 1/4 inch just to kind of give them a fresh start there. And then we're going to peel back the insulation, or strip it back rather, so maybe about something like that. You give those wires a twist. And so I will do the same thing here for our remaining wires. We're going to grab our connector plug, and the way these work on the back side, we have some terminals, and I set a few of them up already. But what you're going to do is back out the set screws pretty much all the way. Try not to pull them all the way out though, because if you do and you drop them, they're good luck finding them. But we're going to be using 4 of them. So this one here is labeled TM for taillights, so the brown wire goes to it. This one's GD for ground, so the white wire goes there. LT for left turn, yellow wire. RT for right turn, so that'll be the green wire. So all you're going to do is take the appropriate wire and find the correct terminal. You're going to push that in place. And take your screwdriver and tighten down that set screw. So I get this one going, and then just do the same thing for the rest of them. So here's what the connector is going to look like whenever you have all the wires in it. And then you can take your dust cover, place that over. What you can do is put dielectric grease inside of there to help protect the terminals and seal everything up and whatnot. I like to do that at the very end. That way, you know, if we go to test this and it's not working right, we don't have a huge mess in there. But this will work for now. And then obviously, once I get the bumper beam up, I can actually mount it to the bottom of our bumper. But this will work for the time being. What we need to do now is start to route our wiring. So I ran mine up through here and then right up through this opening. It's tight to, or it's kind of tricky to see, but relatively easy to get the wire through. So it's gonna go up into the engine compartment and we can continue to route it towards the back of our Jeep. Here in the engine compartment, here's where our wiring runs on up. And what I'm gonna do, in the corner way back here, there's a factory ground, it's a little stud. So we might as well mount our ground wire to it. So I kind of eyeballed the distance here, and I'm just going to very carefully cut our white wire and I'm going to peel that back some, and we'll strip back. Then we can take a ring terminal, we'll slide that over the bare end of the wire and crimp it down. And then this stud, that's the ground I was talking about. Take a 10 millimeter. We're going to pull this completely out. It's kind of tight back here, so what I might do is just remove this, and then when that's off, you're going to take the ring terminal, slide it over it, and then just put that back on and tighten it down. And that's what's going to ground the wire out. Here's what that ground looks like once you got it hooked up. And what you want to do now is peel off the remaining white wire from the rest of the bundle. So this is the end of the wire that goes to nothing, because the side that we grounded, that goes to our connector plug up front. So we'll peel that all the way off, and we want to hold on to this. We're going to use it in a little bit. But what I'm going to do is continue to route this wire towards the back of our Jeep. So I'll do that and show you how it turned out. So I dropped our wiring down the firewall from the engine bay. So there's where it comes on down. And I just continue to route it along through here. Just along the bottom side of our Jeep. And when you're doing this, do your best to avoid any hotter moving parts. And use some zip ties that they give you along the way to keep it secure. But then the wire is going to kind of start angling towards the center a little bit more. You might be able to get a glimpse of it there. But at this point, you kind of lose sight of it, so it's going to go up and over. And like I said, it's a little tricky to see, but it is there. It's just essentially right on top of our frame rail. Right up along through here, and gets pushed back. And then at this point, what I did, so we had our green, our yellow, and our brown wires, right? So I stripped back the green one, peeled it apart, and that'll run to the passenger side. So I got that out of the way, and then that left us with the brown and yellow, right? So at the end of it, I took that bundle of white wire we had, taped this up, and eventually we're going to run this up into the driver's side taillight pocket. So what I did with the other end of the white wire is I ran it to the passenger side along with the green wire. So those kind of split off here, and they run on top of this beam. You can see a piece there. So that just shoots straight across where I have it dropping down right here. So we'll let this hang for a minute. We'll go up top, get our taillights out, and get our wires up into place. To get your taillights out, you're gonna open up the back, and on the side, you're gonna have this cover here. You can just take a flathead or something like that, pop it out, and that will expose, there's a, I guess a plastic bolt, I guess you could call it. You need to take that out. So I'm going to use a 10mm socket. Looks like you might also be able to use a Torx bit, but we'll just grab our socket and we're going to take this out. And once this is all the way out, then we can come back outside and we should be able to pull our tail light out and get it removed. So we'll grab this, just pop on out, and then we'll disconnect it. So red tab there, you pull back on it, and then you should be able to push down on the center of it and separate it. We'll set our light off to the side, and we're going to do the same process on the passenger side to get that one out as well. Now we can kind of prep our factory wires here, and so I went ahead and tested them, and what I came up with is this yellow wire that's going to be our stop and turn signal, or that's what we're going to be using it for. And then just a couple over, there's a white wire with a gray stripe. We're going to be using that for our taillight signal. And so I want to mention too, these were taped up. You just peel the tape off obviously, but I'm going to go about halfway here and you cut them and then strip the insulation back on. We're going to do that on all four ends. All four ends are going to be set up like this. So you strip it back, take a blue butt connector, crimp it down. So I'm going to do the same exact thing for our 3 remaining ends there. So here's all 4 of our ends cut and got the terminals crimped on there. And then our wire from underneath, I just pulled it up through the opening here to the taillight pocket and cut it to length. The yellow wire, I crimped on a blue spade connector, and then our brown wire and our white wire, we're going to do something a little different here. We'll strip them back and we're going to twist these together. Take the bare ends and try to get them tight. And take the yellow terminal there, slide that over both ends, and crimp it down. And now we're ready to hook up our diodes. So here's our diodes. What I'm going to do is just stick them together like that. And the side that has one end, you're going to plug that to the side closest to our connector plug there. And then we'll go color for color. So yellow to yellow. And our white and gray. So that diode. And as far as these go, factory yellow is a stop and turn, and it just so happens that our new yellow wire shares that function, so we'll plug it into there, so that kind of makes it easy. And then with our white wire with the gray stripe, with that being our taillight signal, we want to take our new white and brown wire and plug it into that diode. Sometimes these things can be bent. Just very, very carefully straighten them back out if you need to. If you crank on it too much, you might break that tab and then you're kind of out of luck there. So we'll get that final one plugged in. So I zip tied these up to our bundle of wire there just to kind of keep them from moving around too much. But we'll go ahead and plug this right back in. Lock the tab, pop it on into place, and then we'll re-secure it the opposite way that we removed it. Over here on the passenger side, we hooked up our diodes essentially the exact same way. Really the only difference being the colors. And it turns out there's a green wire from the factory, and that's going to be our stop and turn. And so our new green wire hooks into that diode. And then The factory wire that is white with the orange stripe, that's going to be the taillight signal, and so our new white wire plugs into that diode. That's really all there is to it. I set it up the exact same way, zip tied everything, and we'll plug it in and reinstall it. We can go ahead and test our wiring to make sure that it's working right. So I'm up front plugged into a test box. You can also use your motorhome, but keep in mind if your motorhome has any issues, it'll translate back to this. So, but we'll go ahead, turn our taillights on, our left turn, our right turn, and our brakes. And that'll finish up our look at and our installation of the Roadmaster diode wiring kit on our 2022 Jeep Wrangler 4xe.